JSC is involved with earthbound education as well as space science, which is our destination. And this area was dedicated to George Abbey in 2021. George Abbey was the former center director of JSC, where he's the Apollo spacecraft system manager. The building that you will see coming up to the right houses the Saturn V rocket. The Saturn V rocket was used during the Apollo program to bring our astronauts to the moon. And it's made up of pieces from the 3 council Apollo missions, Apollo 18, 19, and 20.
Learning dream. You got to see it soon. You can open at Independence Plaza.
Remember to remain seated until the tram comes to a full and complete stop.
How do we spell it?
What you want to write? Which word? Engine? Yeah, E-N-G-I-N-E.
I-N-E.
Lift the entire stack off the pad at a force of about 7.5 million pounds of thrust. That's about 1.5 million pounds of thrust per engine, making the F1 engine the most powerful single rocket engine ever developed and ever flown. And these things were gas guzzlers. Like, they would burn through more fuel in 1 second than Charles Lindbergh burned in his entire flight across the Atlantic in 1927. In fact, it was over 10 times as much fuel burned in a single second than Charles Lindbergh's entire flight. They would only burn for about 2.5 minutes. After 2.5 minutes, 2 minutes 47 seconds to be exact, after that amount of time, this stack now weighs less than a third of what it did when it was sitting on the pad just a few minutes before. So that shows you just how powerful and how heavy all these propellants were as well. After the 2.5 minutes, it takes us to about 6,000 miles per hour, and then we detach that first stage. It falls into the ocean, never to be seen again. Our second stage fires, and then shortly after, this ring, this interstage, will actually fall away. After that interstage separates, 5 seconds later, we no longer need the launch escape system. So that tower is going to fly away, not going to use that anymore, and then our second stage is going to continue burning. So the second stage burns for about 6 minutes. It takes us almost into Earth orbit, and then we detach that. That falls into the ocean, never to be seen again. And then our third stage burns. It burns for about 2.5 minutes to take us into what's called a parking orbit around the Earth. Once we're in this parking orbit, we're going to orbit the Earth for about 1.5 orbits. And during this time, we're going to check all of our systems. We're going to make sure we're ready to go to the moon, make sure we're aligned with our proper heading. And then at the right time, we're going to fire up this engine again, and it's going to burn for another 5.5 minutes in what's called the translunar injection burn, or TLI for short. After the 5.5 minutes, we cut off the engine, and now it's time to get our lunar module out of here. You guys want to see the lunar module? All right, so here's what's going to happen. Our command service module is going to detach from the third stage, and the lunar module adapter is going to open up like the petals of a flower, revealing the lunar module on the inside. We're going to do a little flip maneuver, and then we're going to come in slowly and dock with the lunar module, and then we're going to slowly pull it out. This is called the Transposition, Docking, and Extraction Maneuver, or TD&E for short. NASA really likes their acronyms. The sun is very hot, has a lot of radiation. We want to make sure one side doesn't get too hot and the other side doesn't get too cold. So by rolling it very slowly, about 3 times every hour, we basically even out that heating across the entire surface area to keep in equilibrium. By the time we get to the moon, we got to slow down. because if we don't do anything at all, the moon is actually going to slingshot us around itself and send us back to Earth in what's called a free return trajectory. This was actually by design. The scientists did this to make sure that we had a way to get back to Earth without having to fire up any engines. So if anything happened to this engine and got damaged, we wanted to make sure that we had the ability to get back home without having to fire it up. If you've seen the movie Apollo 13, you know that we actually had to use this free return trajectory. Has anyone not seen Apollo 13? Definitely recommend checking it out when you can. Yeah, if you've seen the movie, you know that we had to use that free return trajectory to get back home after an oxygen tank exploded on their service module. Instead of aiming for the broad side of the Earth, we're going to aim for the edge of the Earth. When we aim for the edge of the Earth, we enter the atmosphere at a diagonal angle, allowing us to go through more of the Earth's atmosphere. So imagine you're in a car. You know, whenever you go up to a stoplight, you ease on the brake pedal so that you slow down gradually over a longer period of time, to where when you finally stop, you're going at a nice, comfortable speed. Well, that's essentially what we want to do. When we hit the edge of the Earth, we go through more diagonally through the atmosphere, and that allows us to spend more time in the atmosphere, slow down on our terms, and slow down at the speed that we want to. Is the only piece that gets back safely, and that is how we got to the moon and back. When they dock with the lunar module, yeah, 2 of them will actually leave the spacecraft. Right. So this is what lands on the moon. Yeah, they transfer back and then they go this way. So yeah, the majority of the mission is spent in here. Yeah, absolutely.
Hi friends, see you in the next video, bye.